CBT News celebrates 12 years of delivering news, content, coaching, and analysis to the retail automotive community. You're watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for joining us here on Inside Automotive at cbtnews.com. After Christmas, all eyes are on the new year and all of our new goals that we're going to be planning. But before we jump into the new year, we want to take a look back at 2024. Joining me now is David Kain, Senior Advisor at NCM Associates, to share his perspective on the past year and some of his predictions for the upcoming year. David, thank you so much for taking the time in your schedule there to help us figure this all out.
I'm glad we're going to figure it out, Jim. I know that's a pretty heavy assignment.
Let's start by figuring out 2024. What say you? What were some of the big success stories that jumped out? And then we'll get into some of the challenges that dealers had. But what comes to mind with 2024?
Well, I think there's any number of success stories, but one that comes to mind for me is how well dealers did with low inventory levels throughout the beginning of the year. And even some of the OEMs are still challenged with getting days supply of inventory up. So I think it's remarkable that in the age to where we've got the chips shortage kind of behind us, we're still seeing dealerships and dealer OEMs really doing a credible job of really maintaining good inventory levels, despite the fact that the deliveries are not quite where they want them to be. Mm-hmm. And of course, we've also got some challenged OEMs that have too much inventory. And so I really like to give a shout out to the retailers that have had to work through that kind of dynamic, because some of those brands aren't as well received by the public. They're needing to have extra boost from an incentive standpoint to get moved. Yeah. But that being said, you and I both know that's where the real mark comes for the business savvy of those dealerships, is when they're able to do it when their brands aren't necessarily the eye for the customer.
Yeah, for sure. We started the year off talking a lot about affordability and EVs. Those seem to be the two big factors. We also, I guess you could throw in there AI as well. We're still talking about them at the end of the year. We're talking about that as we go into 2025. It seems as though this affordability factor is a real thing that we've got to be cognizant of in the industry. I mean, with the average price of a new car being almost $50,000, are you hearing this from your dealers that you're working with, that we're I mean, the average payment, I think, is $725 a month for cars. Where is this headed, and what are dealers doing about that?
Yeah, I think affordability really is central to the retail experience for both the seller and for the buyer. Mm-hmm. And when you think about it, you and I both work the retail desk, and when you give a payment to a sales representative and you say, go present this to your customer, mm-hmm. and they've already had a dialogue with them, they've gone through the wants and needs analysis, and the customer said, well, I'm paying $350 now, I can pay upwards of say $400, maybe $450, and you're going in $400, twice where they were expecting. That becomes quite the challenge. And I think a lot of it has to do with how the conversation goes and what we're able to leverage with respect to different approaches. I know back when I was selling, the introduction of short-term leasing really came about as a result of affordability. Yeah. And that's where we're seeing a lot of our clients are starting to lean back into mm-hmm. leasing. And you mentioned EVs. That probably is the greatest pasture, if you will, that you want to take your customer into, is to say not only is leasing a good idea, but you'll have a guaranteed future value, and this affords you an opportunity to drive a vehicle that might give you certainly better fuel economy and put you in a position where you can come out with equity, or be in a position where you're certainly not in equity at the end of your 3 or 4 year term. So I think those work really well. And you mentioned AI, and interesting enough, Jim, I am coming to you as artificial intelligence today. I've just programmed myself with
That's
some
right.
of my thoughts and feelings. And, it is interesting when you see generative AI and, the use of the Chat GPT and Claude AI and
Yeah.
some of the others. It is remarkable the leaps and advances that are being
No
made
question.
in it.
No question. What I would imagine, especially in an area that you know so well in the BDC, that has to play such an incredible role today, right? AI.
Yeah, it does in a number of ways. And almost every time I log into a different CRM, you're seeing a lot of advantages that are being brought to bear by the AI. One strategy that we've used for years and years is what we call the 2-minute drill, where you take a minute to 2 minutes to really get to know, the nuances of the requests that came through. Has that customer purchased from us before? What website did they visit? What were they looking for on the website? Did they want trade value? Did they want payments? Did they want availability? Did they want the price? So AI now pulls that data out and provides that in a summary format, so we actually can respond much quicker to the guest because we've already got the information that we would have had to click around for a couple of minutes.
Wow.
Now, why that's important, Jim, is if we respond with a phone call within 1 minute, there's nearly a 400% greater chance that we're going to connect with the guest than if we even wait 15 or 20 minutes.
Wow.
So it's a dramatic advancement. And then, ongoing follow-up. You and I both see it all the time, and we hear the salespeople give one phone call, one text, one email,
Yep.
and then they're done.
That's right. That's
AI
right.
never quits, and that makes a huge difference.
Oh, I would imagine. Yeah, there's no question. So for dealers out there, make sure that you're taking this on and embracing AI, right? Because it could help in so many different areas. Don't fight it. Don't put it off. Don't listen to your team members that go, we don't need AI, because you do need AI in order to compete today.
Yeah, and there is time to listen to your team members. You're right. But we say that because a lot of times team members, when the AI sends a text, does an email for them, they're like, "Oh, they did that quicker than me. I could have done so much better." Well, maybe not. And with programming and advancements, and with the learning that goes into the updates, the language is improved with every interaction.
There you go.
And so I don't know if I'm a human, if I want to have AI talk to me. And in fact, that's the other side of this, is when it comes to texting and email, AI is making huge advancements, but there's still some challenges on the outbound side, in particular when it comes to voice AI.
Right. Yeah, there's no question. And I use chat for a lot of different emails that I send, and if we come up with some kind of advertising promotions or what have you, and the team's always using Chat GPT because it does just so much better of a job than we can do, right?
Yeah, in my opinion, it's like two heads are better than one, and
Right.
and you and I having a conversation. When we're done, we're gonna get off this interview, and we're gonna say that went pretty good. But we might forget that.
That's right.
When you think of ChatGPT, it remembers all of those resources, and it instantaneously sifts through and says, here's a different type of language. Now, for the fun of it, I'd like to experiment with classes. I'll say, what I'd like y'all to do is respond to this customer's request and type it out, and then I'm going to take one of them and I'm going to put it in ChatGPT and look for an improvement. It's amazing what the improvement is and how it formulates it so quickly. And then for the fun of it, I like to say, now make it sound like Snoop Dogg. And it will do that too. So
that is crazy.
it is remarkable how it will put different personalities. It will look humorous. It'll look excited. It'll look forlorn. So all of those human emotions can really be brought to bear.
That's right. What are some of the trends that you're seeing that from 2024 that you're bringing in, or you're seeing dealers bring into 2025 that you say, hey, this has got to stay? I mean, what are you seeing? I mean, you're out there working with dealers every day and their sales teams.
Well, so you and I probably are very much aware of this. I'm pretty sure you all reported on it, that Amazon just launched to the public with their Hyundai relationship. And that's affording Hyundai shoppers, not just those who worked at Amazon, to actually go online and start the buying process. And so I'm close to that conversation because of relationships that I've developed. And what I love about the team at Amazon is they're saying, we don't expect to sell all the cars. We're just going to sell those that come through that channel and that trust the Amazon brand and the Amazon experience. So that in and of itself is something we're going to have to watch very closely, because there's a lot of doubters out there, a lot of fear that Amazon will get into financing, Amazon will get into a lot of the control of the profitability, but as it's been explained to us, is Amazon basically has three customers. They've of course got the public. They also have the dealer customer, which they don't intend to replace, nor would franchise laws allow it, and the OEMs that they want to do. So to a large degree, Amazon is a bigger threat to some of the third parties out there that might need to amp up their game and make that challenge less of a concern to them. But I think in the end, the dealership wins, because you're going to see those titans fighting it out, to ensure that the dealer gets the best advantage and the customer is well taken care of, all in good time.
And when you talk about third parties, you're talking about the Cars.com and the Auto Traders of the world and Car Gurus and such that now have to compete with Amazon.
Yeah, and I think they will compete with them because they're innovative and they're creative and they have this monstrous audience.
Sure.
But what you also have to look at with Amazon is they've got a huge garage, and every time someone goes on to look for windshield wipers, or they want to do their own do-it-yourself service, they put that information in there, and now Amazon has millions of customer records. That they'll be able to do. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. The other thing along the similar line is during COVID, digital retailing became really interesting, cool for the dealers. And then almost as soon as inventory levels came back, a lot of dealers said, no thanks, we're going to go back to the old way.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you, our clients that are embracing digital retail are flourishing right now.
Really?
And I would beg our clients and anyone listening to this broadcast to really take a second look at digital retailing and allow the guest to really formulate a path that they want to go down, and not look for this linear experience that says you have to buy it the way we want to do it.
That's
so
right.
And what's remarkable about it, Jim, is gross averages are better. Time on site is higher, but the time in the dealership is lower, so the overall customer experience is that much greater.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's just what they're looking for. And so that's interesting. So dealers out there, take note of that. The fact that COVID hit and came and went doesn't necessarily mean that your digital retailing effort has to do the same. And I think there's definitely a place for it. One individual that I was having an interview with here on the show said that today's dealer needs to look like some of the grocery store chains that are out there, like Publix or Albertsons or any of the other big ones, where you can either have it delivered to your car when you pull up, right? You can have it delivered to your house, or when you go in, you can either go through the typical cashier, or you can go through one of the scanning devices and do it yourself. And or maybe they've got a shelf over there that you just walk over and take the bag off that you've already ordered. It's just a question of what's the style of the consumer and how do they want to best be served, and then do that, right?
Yeah, and I think that creates its own challenge, which is how do you modernize today's Salesforce?
Yeah.
Because today's Salesforce would quickly feel as though they're not needed or not part of the equation, whereas the very best ones will be very much needed, because as you can imagine, when you hear statistics that Four Eyes brings to the table from their benchmark study, that 85% of consumers buy something other than what they started with.
Yeah.
We're the experts, and
right.
we need to be able to have that dialogue with them. So our role that we play within the process, the role of the BDC team members, the role of the sales people becomes really vital. And it harkens back to something, you knew my dad, is really long-term industry guy and really dedicated himself to the customer experience. He told me a long time ago, he goes, if you want to be successful in the car business, David, you got to get out of the car business and you got to get into the people business.
Yeah.
So, we watch movies like Glengarry, Glenn Ross, and they're saying, always be closing, ABC. And Dad always preached, always be helping, ABH. Yeah. And what we're finding is dealerships and dealer teams, sales teams, service teams that embrace always be helping really have a huge advantage. And I'll call out this. A friend of mine, Matt Murray, owns a company called Widewell, and they just released a study, and it talked about some of the key things that are causing customers to have a positive or negative view of the buying experience, and communication was at the very top. So we want to make sure that we don't walk away from effectively teaching our team how to communicate.
That's right. No truer words are spoken. And in addition to what you just left us with, if you could give the dealers one piece of advice for themselves and their teams going into 2025, what would it be? What do you want them to focus on?
Invest in your team. To be honest, as the business tightens up, team members are sometimes overlooked, and taking care of them and growing them through education is really one of the things that people are like, look, let's take a look at that later. But as you know, and I'll mention this, NCM really leads the market when it comes to 20 groups, and that peer-to-peer collaboration is remarkable. Yeah. The NCM Institute, the classes that are taking place across the whole spectrum of the dealership in fixed ops, HR, IT, and of course variable ops. I mean, we really have a full menu of opportunities, and not the least of which BDC and digital marketing and digital sales processes. So, that's what we would say is invest in your team, and they'll invest in your customer.
Yep, that's exactly right. I couldn't agree more. David Kain, Senior Advisor at NCM Associates. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's always great catching up with you, and you always share such great advice with the dealers and our subscribers, so we appreciate that very much.
Thank you very much, Jim. Y'all have a great holiday.
Great, you too.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.